Welcome to Lesson 8. Let's talk about teaching AI your actual codebase. RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, is the senior knowledge layer that sits between off-the-shelf models and your specific code. Instead of cramming everything into a context window or hoping the model was trained on something similar, you index your repo and retrieve only the chunks that matter per query. 6 stages: chunk, embed, store, retrieve, augment, generate. That's the pipeline we're unpacking. Here's the map for the next 12 slides. 4 skills: why RAG beats, stuffing the context window, the 6-stage flow, and where each stage breaks, the build versus buy call, and the query patterns that actually return signal instead of noise. By the end, you'll know when to reach for RAG, which tool to grab, and which pitfalls quietly wreck most implementations. Start with the obvious question. Why not just paste everything into a 200K context window? Because 200K tokens is roughly 500 pages, and your real codebase is 5,000 files. Context windows are paste and pray, simple, zero setup, but you pay tokens on every query and big repos just don't fit. RAG flips it. Index once, retrieve only the chunks that matter, scale to millions of lines. One is fine for a one-shot question. The other is how you actually work on a code base. So how does RAG actually work? 6 stages every time. Chunk your files into 200 to 500 token blocks, usually functions or logical units. Embed each chunk into a vector. Store those vectors with metadata in a database like Chroma or LanceDB. At query time, embed the question, retrieve the top K nearest chunks, augment the prompt with that context, and generate the answer. Cursor does this. Cody does this. Your custom build will too. Master these 6 stages and you can debug exactly where retrieval breaks. Here's those 6 stages collapsed into 2 seconds. Ask Cursor how your auth flow works, and it pulls the 4 most relevant chunks by vector similarity. The middleware, the login handler, the JWT service, the types. Then it answers with line numbers from your code, not Stack Overflow's auth pattern, not some generic JWT tutorial. Specific, citable, verifiable. That's the difference retrieval makes. Now here's where senior judgment kicks in. Build versus buy. For 90% of teams, the answer is buy. Cursor, Cody, Copilot Chat, $20 to $40 a month, zero setup, battle-tested. DIY with Chroma DB or LanceDB only makes sense when you need control over chunking or custom embeddings. And full enterprise builds? Last resort, reserved for compliance, air-gapped deployments, or multi-tenant scale. The senior move isn't building more. It's knowing when not to. Once you've picked your tool, the next bottleneck is you, specifically, how you ask. RAG retrieves by semantic similarity, so explain this codebase, matches everything, and surfaces noise. How does payment retry work? Pulls the 3 right files. The pattern that never fails: verb, noun, context, anchor. Validate user input on sign-up. Trace auth flow from login to JWT. Memorize those 3 slots. They're the difference between answers and hallucinations. Once your prompts are sharp, 6 moves separate average RAG from great RAG. Reference precisely with AFIL name and symbol. Tighter context, sharper answers. Index docs and ADRs alongside code so you can ask why, not just what. Re-index after big merges. Demand file and line citations on every claim, run hybrid search to catch exact symbols vector misses, and tune chunks to 200 to 500 tokens. Each one compounds across thousands of queries. That's the senior multiplier. Here's the whole lesson on one screen. 12 patterns to keep next to your editor. Memorize the 3-letter model, retrieve plus augment plus gene. Lock in the numbers. Chunks at 200 to 500 tokens, top K between 4 and 8. Buy before you build. Anchor every query with a verb, a noun, and a file or symbol, and never trust an answer without a citation. That's the Senior Knowledge Layer Toolkit. Now the failure modes. 5 places RAG implementations quietly die. 1. Building when cursor or Cody already solves 90% of it. 2. Chunk size. Too small loses context. Too big poisons retrieval. Stay in the 2 to 500 range. 3. Forgetting to re-index because your code ships daily and your vectors don't. 4. Trusting answers without a file-inline citation. And 5. Indexing only code. Skip the README and ADRs and the AI knows what you built but never why. Knowing the failure modes is theory. Time to build the instinct. 3 exercises. First, open your real repo in Cursor, index it, and hammer it with 5 Euler Codebase questions. Auth, validation, retries, errors, deploy. Note where it shines and where it shrugs. Second, the vague versus specific A-B. Same question, 2 phrasings. Watch retrieval quality swing from 50 to 90%. Third, spin up ChromaDB and index one project yourself, not to ship it, to feel where it breaks. That's where the build versus buy call stops being an opinion. That's the knowledge layer locked in. A 6-stage RAG flow, buy first pragmatism with cursor or Cody, queries shaped as verb plus noun plus anchor, and the discipline to cite or distrust. 4 anchors that turn retrieval from a black box into a tool you control. Next up, Lesson 9, Agent Workflows, Claude Code, Cursor Agents, and the judgment call of when to delegate. The Senior Power Tool, and the last advanced lesson in this series. See you there.